Amen. Well, hello, everyone. My name is John Lemmer. I'm a firm believer in Jesus Christ. I was born September 21st, 1966 in Neenah, Wisconsin. I was brought up in a home with loving parents who taught me about the Bible from a very early age. And I remember my mother reading books to me, specifically Bible stories from the Arch Children's Bible story book, like, three fishes and 5 loaves of bread and things like that. And I loved them as a kid. The first Bible verse I was taught was John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And my parents and grandparents, they brought me to church every Sunday while growing up. Never touched a drink. I've never smoked in my life. I've never done drugs. So why am I here? You ask that. Why am I here? Well, I carry a secret. On the outside, I look squeaky clean, but on the inside, my mind was stuck in sexual addiction. My testimony starts with my insecurities. I was extremely shy in my family. I'd go to my friend's house to play, but if they're not outside, I was too afraid to knock on the door to see if they would come out to play. In my mind, if I played outside, they would come over or see me playing outside, they'd come out. That didn't work very well. Sometimes I'd bring my younger brother, because he was bold. He would knock on the door for me, so I didn't have to help me with my shyness, because my parents knew I was shy. To help me with my shyness, my parents would encourage me to bring, to show and tell objects that were kind of cool. At least I thought they were kind of cool when I was a kid. I still do today. That would get me talking. So in second grade, I brought a log to school that had beaver chew in several spots. And I ended up going from classroom to classroom. That was not planned. But I was showing it off, talking, bubbly. And although it got me talking, I still struggled with making friends. As I got older, I became more distant with my friends and was using my brother to have friends that he had. I thought, oh, they're my friends. Really, they were my brother's friends, but I just kind of hung out with them. And this became a pattern that continued in my adult life. I had a lot of acquaintances at work, but no true friends. Well, while I was a kid, I was first introduced to pornography when I was 12 years old, or 12 years of age. My brother and I were at a neighbor's down the street, and he showed us his father's collection of Playboys. I knew it wasn't right, but I had to look anyway, and I could just feel torn inside. I was torn between the feelings that I felt about looking, or when I was looking at the magazine, and what I was taught from my parents about the Bible. At the same time, I had overheard my grandfather talking to my parents about baptism. And when was I going to be baptized? Because I was 12, I'm age of accountability. As it turned out, I knew that being baptized was part of being a Christian and a member of the church, but I really didn't understand it all. I had witnessed other children my age being baptized the previous summer. And the way things worked in the church that we attended, you took a class that taught church history, what the church believes, and then you decided to be baptized or not be baptized the following week. Well, I went through the class and I waited to the last moment to make my decision. The pastor of the church actually came by Saturday afternoon, which was the day before my baptism was supposed to happen, and I was torn inside. I was purposely waiting to the last minute because I knew I was being baptized for the wrong reasons. I was ashamed of what I was doing, and I didn't want to have my grandparents at the baptism. So guess what? As it turned out, they still made it. They did an all-nighter to get there. My grandfather gave me a Bible with a inscription to commemorate my baptism. And this bothered me for years with my pornography addiction. My pride also got in the way because I had to admit I lied about my salvation earlier. I always felt I had to fix myself to come to Christ. I didn't understand that Christ takes you as you are. Pornography also gave me a clouded view of how to treat women and how to interact with them. I liked girls, but I was too afraid to talk to them And I would go back to pornography to cover for my pain and loneliness. I was caught multiple times with pornography in the house growing up, and my solution was always, I need to hide it better. That didn't work very well. When I went to the local community college, I got a job in a warehouse to help me pay for my tuition. Well, you remember my shyness? Actually, my parents got me the job. My family knew friends at church, and my father talked to them, so all I had to do was show up. At this particular job, though, I met my future wife. Remember again, I said, I don't know how to act around girls. I had always been a loner, and this was all new. Needless to say, I was scared to death, and I liked to tease her because she chased me. I wasn't going out looking for her, and I liked to tease her about it. And I thought, hey, my pornography problem is solved. Boy, was I wrong. In September of 1986, when I was 20, I joined the Air Force. Wait, hold on. I need to backtrack a little bit. I was failing in college. I didn't understand the material, and I was too shy, proud, to admit I didn't understand the material that was being taught and to ask the professor for help. So I got straight Fs the last semester. My pride was getting me in trouble, but I didn't realize I had a pride problem until celebrate recovery. I needed an easy way to get out of the house, and my solution was to join the military. Well, the military didn't help my pornography problem. In reality, it made it worse. Pornography is everywhere. I didn't go to church because I had no one to hold me accountable, and I decided, it's not for me. I was maintaining a long-distance relationship with my future wife for about 800 miles, and we became engaged in June of 1988. My wife, Wendy, and I got married June 17th, 1989, and June 18th, we drove 800 miles to Oklahoma City. I didn't understand much about women for a time, I didn't understand much about women, and for a time I did stay away from pornography, but it always came back. We started going to church because that was what my wife wanted. I figured I could pretend to be a Christian once more. I followed whatever she wanted. My wife made friends easily and had a few really close friends. By nature, I would end up having an acquaintance of the spouse of my wife's friend, but it wasn't really a friend of my own. Over time, we had a daughter, Ashley, born August 2nd, 1991, and then a son, Raymond, born July 29th, 1993. During this time, I once again would get caught, and my solution was to hide it more. The military moved Wendy and I to Alaska in May of 1994. On September 22nd, which was the day after my birthday, and this was 1995, my unit had a major aircraft accident. The airborne warning control aircraft on takeoff ingested 36 geese into the three of the four engines, and it was flamed out. The entire crew was lost in the crash. I discovered I was mortal, and this really bothered me. It changed my porn habit too. Every time I flew, I'd get rid of any pornography I had because I feared if I was in a crash, my wife would find out and think less of me when I died. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? We had our third daughter, Elizabeth, March 23rd, 1996. And while in Alaska, internet started to take off and my addiction switched from magazines to the computer. And this in turn fed my addiction even more. Over this time, I knew I needed to come forward with my addiction and confess my lies about my salvation, but again, my pride got in the way. So eventually, we got orders to Warner Robins, Georgia in June 2000. And this was an adjustment for me. I was on the top of the pyramid on the old plane that I was on, and now I was at the bottom. I had to relearn a whole new plane. The old plane was an airborne radar, tracked airplanes. This new plane was used its radar to track trucks and tanks. And then 9/11 happened. And because of my unit's special capabilities on the plane, we deployed immediately. With that, sorry, I got sidetracked. Yeah, I came home after 117 days and 3 months later deployed for a second time in April 2002. My wife found me out again, but this time it's different. I couldn't explain it away because I was halfway around the world. My marriage was a shambles because of my lies and deception. But my boss saw me. and could tell something just wasn't right. I didn't have any pride left to stop me from coming clean about my addiction to pornography. In step 1 of Celebrate Recovery, we admit we are powerless over our addictions and compulsive behaviors, and our lives are unmanageable. For I know that that good itself does not dwell in me, that is in my sinful nature. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. Romans 7:18. I knew he was a strong Christian and told him what was going on. I told him about my struggles to fix myself and get right with God. And he said, we all sin, are distant from God. We can't get there on our own. Romans 3:23 states, we have all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Then we talked about the mighty heroes of the Bible and how messed up they were. They all failed and didn't get to God on their own. You remind me of David. And David is, someone I can relate to. How he dealt with lust, adultery, murder, and David was a man after God's own heart. Needless to say, I put away my pride, and I accepted Christ as my Savior and became a new creation. I felt like a gigantic burden was lifted. I no longer had to pretend I am a follower of Christ. I still didn't know how I was getting home, though, but God sure did. You see, we were at war. You don't get to go home just because you have marriage difficulties. I was at day 23 of a 120-day deployment. But God had his own plan. He wasn't going to send just me home. He decided to send the entire unit. So 5 jets, 700 personnel, all went back to the States for reconstitution. Within 5 days, we were all back stateside. Meanwhile, I admitted my pornography addiction to my church body and shared my new relationship with Christ. I got into counseling to help me out. I eventually became a 5th grade Sunday school teacher and a deacon in my local church. But something was still missing. I didn't have an accountability partner, and most churches don't want to talk about sex addiction. We still wear a mask, and I was slipping and ended up having a relapse. A Wednesday night intern pastor was speaking at our church, and he led Celebrate Recovery at Southside Baptist Church down in Warner Robins. He invited my wife and I to come, and wow, I was hooked. These people had no problem talking about struggles, habits, hang-ups, addictions. They even had small open cheer groups for my specific addiction. I had been attending Celebrate Recovery for about 6 months, and our open chair leader, he was very adamant about taking a 12-step class. Needless to say, I had an attitude and didn't want to do it. I was happy with where I was at. Note to self, when you are happy with where you're at, you're not where you need to be. I was causing problems and making excuses for why I couldn't attend the 12-step class. I kept telling myself my job shift hours would cause me to miss classes. I was doing the exact opposite of the tree in Psalm 1:3 that was planted by the rivers of water, growing, flourishing, and bearing fruit. I was a stump. Several weeks passed, and then on a Celebrate Recovery lesson night, the handout had a focus question. It said, who do you need to apologize to? And I knew right away I needed to apologize to my small group leader for open share. I did this, and I signed up immediately for a 12-step class. You know what? Never missed a class. I also learned a lot about myself. You see, I came to Celebrate Recovery because of my sexual addiction. But in my 12-step class, I learned I've got anger issues. I deal with control, anxiety problems. I have a real stubborn streak, and man, did I have pride. Well, through all this, God restored my marriage, and this past June, Wendy and I have celebrated our 33rd wedding anniversary. My relationship with my children has also improved because I became a lot more involved with their lives. My 12-step class really opened my eyes, and I later became a small group open share leader for sexual addiction and a co-leader of another 12-step class. I believe I learned even more co-leading because I wasn't focused on my own addictions. I was helping others deal with theirs. And seeing the change that occurred in these men as they worked through their own hurts and hang-ups was incredible. I also learned how much of a family the Celebrate Recovery team was. Whatever the situation, Celebrate Recovery leaders were always there to help. I also discovered the benefit of developing healthy relationships with other men, that's something I struggled with, who I really could talk to. In 2018, my family finally moved back to Wisconsin, and at the time, the closest Celebrate Recovery was in the Fox Valley. So I took a break from Celebrate Recovery, but I did the smart thing. I got involved in a men's accountability group that met Sunday nights. I knew I needed men around me to hold me accountable. And in 2021, TJ and Jake, they spoke at Washington Community Church about starting a Celebrate Recovery at Crossroads. I knew it was time to get back and share what Christ had done for me. The only problem was it was going to conflict with my men's group. Once again, God had a plan. He worked it out. He changed the Celebrate Recovery meeting day to Thursdays instead of Sunday. And I'm still amazed how God works this plan for me. So here's your challenge. If you are new or even have been going to Celebrate Recovery for a while, you need to get involved. Standing on the sidelines doesn't help your recovery. Getting involved with others who will walk with you without judging you or enabling you does. Also, when the opportunity arrives to take a 12-step, take it. Don't be stubborn like I was, aka the stump. No one takes longer, or it takes longer if you resist. Change is possible because God changed me, so he can change you. Thank you.
Hello there. I'm a faithful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle with alcohol, marijuana, and currently really struggling with God's will for my life. And I know that I shouldn't be, but it really is a battle. And my name is TJ.
Hey, TJ.
So, John, thank you very much for that incredible testimony. That was amazing. And John mentioned that he's been in Celebrate Recovery for many, many years, and this is the first time he's given his testimony. And I don't know why he's been waiting, but I guess it was that stump guy. I don't know, but he did an amazing job. And God is so good. When Jake and I 3-4 years ago, we looked at this Celebrate Recovery thing, and it just didn't happen. And then we got back together again. And we went to Washera Community Church, didn't know anything about what was going on, and we met John. And I've been going to Washera, and I've never met John. He came up to our table there, and he said that he would really love to be involved. And then shortly after that, when we came to Crossroads Church, Carrie, who's been in Celebrate Recovery for years and years, here she is. So all of a sudden, we have two people that are experienced in Celebrate Recovery with a couple of guys that didn't know what to do. So God is just an incredible. So I can't thank him enough for that, for bringing John and Carrie into our group here, into our forever family, right? So a couple of things that I don't want to speak too much. John, he did it all, but I did want to. A couple things. When we were singing that one song, My God is Still the Same, I thought of something that I saw not too long ago, and it was that this is the same God that was there with Adam. This is the same God that was there with Moses. This is the same God that was there and told Noah to build a boat. David, who John brought up in his testimony, who was a big sinner, but God stuck with him. I mean, that is the same God that we serve, and that really stuck out to me. And I went back to during the song and grabbed my notebook because I didn't want to forget that, because it is just amazing to think of that he is the same God through the years, and he has not changed, and he is the same. One of the things I want to encourage everybody here tonight, and what you just heard in John's testimony, is this is not a Celebrate Recovery is not just for those that are struggling with alcohol and drugs. And I think that's a really big problem that we have in Celebrate Recovery. They think, well, I'm not struggling with drugs and alcohol. But as John mentioned, he never did any drugs. He didn't do alcohol. He had another hurt habit and hang up, and we all have that. So please, when you're out with your friends and family, I told somebody not too long ago that, hey, I do Celebrate Recovery, and they said, well, you're not an alcoholic, you're not this. I said, no, but I have hurts, habits, and hang-ups. So I just wanted to bring that up, that please let people know that this is not just alcohol and drugs. We listened to Janice's testimony a couple weeks. Again, we listened to Carrie's testimony. It's not only about drugs and alcohol. So please help us let people know that. And like Pastor Andy says, we can take off those masks and just not help each other, but be there in support. The 12-step classes. We're going to hopefully get a couple going this fall. John mentioned it. He was a little resistant to it. I'm taken a step study with John. Jake and I both are. This is his third time, I believe. It's my second time, and every time you get more out of it. So when that comes up, we'll hopefully get a couple people involved in some 12 steps this fall, which is right around the corner anyway. So lastly, I'm just going to mention that one of our leaders, you all know her, Jenny, is she's really struggling. She's in the hospital. She's been there a week now. So I just ask you all to pray for Jenny. I'm going to just get off of our little routine here, and I just want to quickly say a quick prayer. God, restore that broken body. She goes through so much. So we just ask you that during these times when she's in the hospital, she's really depressed. So please, Father, just give her the guidance and let her know that we're all thinking of her and praying for her so that she can keep any thoughts and craziness that goes through her head. Just let her know that you are there. And if you are for her, nobody can be against her. So, Father, we just pray for Jenny and her quick recovery. So that's about it. I think we're going to do the Serenity Prayer. And then what will happen after that is we'll break up into our open share group. The men will go downstairs. The ladies will go I think you're going to be in the gym. We always do that. We break up by gender. If anybody, I know there's a few new guys here, you're welcome to join us for our open share. And if you have any questions on any of that or what to expect, please look for somebody who's wearing one of these badges, one of the leadership teams. We can help you out with that. But we'll break up here after the Serenity Prayer. So please join me. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. Taking as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen.
Thank you. I just get so nervous. I'm so glad that we never had a moving in the Dave.